Hello, everybody. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. On this Monday night, we have storms brewing out in Montana a long ways away when they arrive, and tomorrow's risk torn apart. The storm risk moves over the valley. I'll have details on what those risks are coming up right now. But first, my friends at Robert Gibbons Sons deserve congratulations for winning for the third time in a row the Bryant Circle of Champion Award. Now, Bryant is quality equipment, and it's done right by the team at Robert Gibbons Sons, serving the community for over 110 years. Give them a call today. Let them know that Hutch sent you. All right, let's take a look at what we have going on as we head into the evening hours. We do have showers. We do have thunderstorms that are brewing, but they're way out to the west. And here's right where they're looking to be. Now, we do have a severe thunderstorm approaching that Missouri River Valley in the Lake Oahe area of central South Dakota, rolling out of the Black Hills. This is a windy one, and you can see this backward C shape to it. That's called a bow echo. Okay, so bow echoes, bow in the direction the wind is blowing. Those winds will be coming and gusting out of the west. Anita Larson, good to have you on board. Thanks for joining. And if you are joining with questions, let me know. Diablo Blanca, good to see you. And Jason Mickelson, good evening to you. Jason Dykoff, thanks for joining. Is Ottertail in the storms tonight or tomorrow? Morning storms are going to move into the area as well as tomorrow afternoon. Now, let's go over what's going on. Now, I will say the headline of this, and it's worth staying, so please stick around, is we're going to show you on a forecast model where there's going to be spin in the atmosphere and quite a bit of energy and lift in the atmosphere in your forecast for tomorrow that will be a lot closer to home than the storms we've seen out west. Lewistown, Montana, north of Billings, we have strong thunderstorms rocking their way through. I'll tell you what, they'll take any drink of water they can get in western Montana with the drought conditions there. Now, closer to home, we have a South Dakota storm that's brewing down here that's heading into the Isabel area from Faith. This is moving east-northeast at 41 miles per hour, and a considerable damage threat from this. Not from hail size, less than 3/4 of an inch in diameter, but 70-mile-per-hour gusts blowing out of that. See this backward C shape here? Right at the apex of the bow, or the peak of that curvature, right about here is where there's some very gusty wind potential with this storm. Now, we did have a measurement here, 54 miles per hour as it blew just south of Bison, and that's in South Dakota, not Bison as in is the shape here. For Thundar and the team in Fargo. Jason, good to have you on board, and thank you very much for your support of stars. Victoria, hey, thanks for sharing your pictures as well, Victoria. Appreciate that. Josh says probably not skydiving out there in the big sky country of Montana or where the wind blows. Yeah, it could be a little bit gusty out there, and I understand when we talk gusts, telling you the threshold of gusts that we're looking at, gusting to 70, well, it might drag that parachute just a wee bit of a ways downwind. Glendale, Montana, Dawson County. Look at this, Webo Beach, seeing some storms. Those are non-severe. These are a long ways from us. As the crow flies, it's a good 200 miles to Bismarck, and another 100 to Dickinson, and another 100 to Glendive. That's where they are. So they're a long ways away yet. That means a good night's sleep for Hutch Johnson and you, Brenda, and you, Bonnie, and thank you very much, JR. And Jack in St. Cloud. Yes, it'll be a long while. Now, here's a look at the model. Let's go right to that for tonight, and we're going to tear this apart in a couple of different ways. This is where things get interesting. First of all, the heat today was on out to the west. Your temperatures here in the valley still hot, but look at what these storms are moving into as they move into the Missouri River Valley. That's a hot patch, a hot pocket, if you will. And that hot pocket has 86-degree air in Pierre, 81 in Mobridge, 79 Bismarck. And what about moisture? We measure that. One great measure of moisture is dew point temperature, and the dew point temperature is the temperature we have to cool the air down to for it to become saturated. The closer these numbers are to the actual air temperature, the more muggy and humid it is, and the lower those cloud bases are. And when those cloud bases form lower, guess what? Well, we have a little more energy in the atmosphere. Look at these 70s. We are rocking 70s out there. And a relatively new term to Hutch that you may be hearing in agriculture is this corn sweat business. But it's basically, land use. And when we have land that's filled with dirt right now this time of the year, we get some drier dew point temperatures out there. But where we have crops planted, particularly corn and those wet ones, soybeans do the same thing. It's called evapotranspiration. Those plants, they let out some moisture. And if the air isn't moving too fast, well, that moisture just kind of lingers. And we get dew points here that are as high as the Gulf Coast states. So a lot of energy in the atmosphere. Let me show you where the energy is tonight. And then we'll look at this model and I'll show you where this energy that we're measuring is going to be going tomorrow. So here we go. Let's take a look at this and I'll look at some of these values. This is called CAPE, or convective energy in the atmosphere. And anywhere you see this bright blue color, it's a bad day in weather, because that means the upward force with these storms could be so strong, the hail could be significant. And when we get big updrafts that are strong, that support big hail, we can get big time gusts. Now, this energy is measured in values of joules per kilogram, and we're over 5,000 joules per kilogram, which is huge. You go out towards Minneapolis, St. Paul, it's under 100. Out where you see that thin blue line right there. Now, as you go into Bismarck, it's a little bit lower than it is in South Dakota. So here is the bullseye of energy. This energy means if we start a parcel or a bubble of air rising, it's just going to want to rise even faster. The more energy, the faster it rises. The faster it rises, the more bigger the hail can be supported by these storms. And the hail was hail-lacious out there in the western part of the Dakotas over the last couple of days. I mean, some big time and huge quantities of hail falling out there. So there's energy out here in the atmosphere. It's that time of year. Now, what about energy in the atmosphere that's spin? This is one measure of spin. And well, if we take a look at this, we can see right along the I-90 corridor through central and southern parts of South Dakota. Cody says, wow, indeed. Wow. Look at this. This is some effective spin out there as well. So, you know what? We have a system working its way over the region, and it is creating areas in the atmosphere where the surface winds are blowing up from the south. But above it, we have winds coming in from the west or northwest in places. And where the low pressure system wraps that wind around and that wind starts coming out of the east-northeast and it's met by wind aloft that's in the completely opposite direction, that causes spinning tubes of air over your town. And when we have spinning tubes of air with an updraft that's supported by that cape we were just talking about, that can stretch that tube vertically and we can have ourselves a tornado. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be widespread tornadoes. It doesn't look like we're going to have violent tornadoes, but tornadoes, if they hit the right place, as we've seen on many occasions this summer, then it can lead to some bad things. So we want to stay weather aware, because now we're going to take a look at these parameters tomorrow to see where they are using forecast modeling. And you know what? I don't know what you do. Drop a comment. Let me know. Susan, you're watching from Park River. Tom, good evening to you. I hope you are doing great out there. And I'll tell you what, I got to tell you, with weather like we've been having, is this something that interests you? Because I try to take a little bit of time and share some of the insight that us meteorological, I call me a weather nerd, this weather nerd here looks at, to try to keep you ahead of the storm, and why I might get more concerned about tornadoes on one day versus another. Let me show you what I mean. WTF, Mike, can I order winter early? This humidity is awful. I'm going to say I don't want that, Mike. I differ with you, because I think this air, as heavy and wet and groggy and soggy and doggy as it is, a lot easier to shovel than the snow we get in winter. But we can have our fun out here too. Watching from Sterling. Hey, good to have you on there, Amy Joe. Thanks for watching. Luke says, she was a humid one today. All right, so we're getting that sweaty corn out there, right? And I was sweaty too, a sweaty Hutch. Josh's weather says, me, weather nerd. Yeah, I'm a weather nerd too. Josh, join and welcome to the club. Okay, I'm just making sure I didn't miss any. Good evenings. Brookings, South Dakota tonight. We'll be heading to Scotland, South Dakota on the way to Redfield tomorrow night. It's really muggy here. Yeah, okay, that definitely. We just talked about those dew points in the 70s. This model is a forecast. It's a high resolution model, meaning that there's more pixels of data calculated for more data points. So instead of data points about every 60 or 100 miles and making estimates in between, this one has a grid that's much, well, grittier. It's a lot closer together for the data points. That's why it is more of a high resolution model. So it also can pick up thunderstorms, because you've heard me mention this year that thunderstorms have an average diameter of about 10 miles. So if you have models that have a grid of 15 or 30 miles, then thunderstorms can form in between grid points, and they're useless when it comes to forecasting thunderstorms. Now, any of these storms out here that these models show may form a little bit off in a little bit of a different area. But I think the point is that they give us an idea of when they'll fire and also give us an idea of the way they may track as we go through. So let's get rocking and let's get rolling. And now we're looking at a couple of different things, the track of the storms, and then we're going to take a look at these two factors I talked about, that energy in the atmosphere, and we're going to look at that spin in the atmosphere. So let's go. All right, let's start with a look at this forecast track. Right now, those storms are way out in the big sky country of Montana. So how's the model start? If you're ever forecasting weather, you want to see that the model is starting out now as we approach the 10 o'clock hour here. So it should be 3:03Z. Let's go ahead and get over to that. Okay, so at 03, yeah, they're pretty close to where we have storms. This one was a big doggy, right? This one had some huge wind reports with it. And these storms here, not severe, but certainly marching on. When will they get here? Tick tock, tick, tick, tick tock, tick, tick. Okay, we got to sleep all the way until 08Z. That's 3 a.m. Then Bismarck has a few storms in south. A little bit of rain moving through the oil patch out there. LOL Lockhart, thank you very much for watching. When we get out of how much rain will we get out? Let's go ahead and look at that when we're done here too. I'll go ahead and answer your question. Thanks for riding along. Cody, good to have you on board. Corn sweat also adds to severe weather. It does, in the sense that moisture is the fuel for thunderstorm energy. That cape is fueled by the moist air. It adds energy to the air. If we had dry air at the surface, those cape or energy levels would be no good. Okay, for thunderstorms, that is. Good for a nice, warm, dry heat day, right? Okay, so as we take a look at these storms, they'll roll into the James River Valley here as we go into about the 5 a.m. So this is Greenwich Mean Time. You subtract 5 hours when we're in the daylight saving time. Notice this backward C shape. As we go into the morning hours, there could be some windy thunderstorms here and there. The risk of severe is on the low side, but it isn't zero. These storms will move their way into the FM area, maybe as far north as Grand Forks as we go in towards 6 to 7 a.m. Backward C shape, gusty winds will be the main threat as we go through. So this is one weather wiggle wobbling through the valley, that is, and that's what's going through. I wish I was boating on the river in Bismarck right now. It looks like a good night to be boating out there for now. A little bit later, it might be a little bit unsettled at 3 a.m. So you want to get out of the houseboat at that time. All right, good evening from Detroit Lakes. Nicholas, good to have you on board. So now we're looking at the storms in the morning. So there's your morning round one. Some windy thunderstorms blowing through. Can I rule out severe? No. There is a small chance of severe in the morning. Wind, the number one threat. The number two threat, some isolated hail that might make it to 1 inch in diameter, but I'm not confident that it will. All righty then. Now, we got a low pressure center out here swirling and twirling its way through South Dakota. Hey, they're taking the scenic route right through the Badlands. What a great trail to go through. Morning showers and storms by noon and 1 p.m. will be moving through the Arrowhead, so Ely, and on its way down the North Shore. Here's a little batch of sprinkle dinkles working their way through northern parts of North Dakota. Now, this is a kink in an isobar. Do you see these little bends in the isobars here? The closer the isobars are, the windier they are, and then the air turns. But this is an area that's called a warm front. Warm fronts are a great spot where we get some turning of the wind at the surface. So remember, I was saying, if we have wind blowing this way at the surface, but above the ground it's blowing that way, it's 180 degrees different. That's called wind shear. And the air above us blowing this way, the air below us moving this way, we get this rolling in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and those rolling tubes of air, if we have energy there, can get pulled up. Now, as we take a look at this isn't widespread thunderstorm development as we go through the evening, but a couple isolated cells. That's concerning because isolated cells take all of the energy from the atmosphere, and they could, if they do produce tall, towering thunderstorms, be the most volatile. So the early onset storms after dinner here, folks, this is as we approach 10, so between 6 and 10, could produce on the warm front side is where my concern is for that spin, we'll look there. Now, here we have another low pressure center that's working its way through as we go through the nighttime hours again. Here you're looking at midnight. All right, dark 30. And we continue with our risk of storms into Wednesday morning and another round of rain. So you're asking about how much rain. You got a Tuesday morning one, isolated Tuesday afternoon, and then overnight into Wednesday morning, another round. So that is a slick, well, spit. It's a slick spit. It's precipitous precipitation that in spots is going to be heavy, but you could be in this line of storms and have one side of town get 3 inches of rain and the other side of town get a 1/4 inch of rain or less. That's just how thunderstorms are. Okay, these babies putz their way through. It looks like they move through northern portions of Minnesota as we head through. This model may look different than the one I showed you before, but I'm doing that on purpose. Multiple models give us a general idea. West to east movement, morning storms in Fargo. The wind is the main threat, particularly on that other model I showed you. But now let's look at energy in the atmosphere. It's called convective atmospheric potential energy for all you bitten by the same weather nerd bug that Hutch Johnson's been bit by. I'm looking at energy based from the surface, okay? How much energy? This will take into account those 70s dew points, by the way, because if we lift a parcel of air from the surface with that juicy air, that corn sweat nonsense we've been talking about, here's where your energy is tonight. So the best chance for stout or strong thunderstorms as we go through the overnight hours will be along the South Dakota border. Once again, that's where the energy is. The lift up here is there. There's some, but not nearly as much. Now, as we head into the morning hours here, you're looking at midnight, still quite a bit of energy in the central part of the Dakotas. This really gets undercut, taken away, and we start to see the cold outflows from our showers and thunderstorms shutting off the energy. That should shut off most of the severe risk, but we'll still have those traveling wet storms working their way through the windy, wet morning here in the FM area and the valley as we start the day. Those move into lakes country. Now, the atmosphere starts heating up. It starts gaining energy as the temperature rises and the dew points return. And here we go. Energy starts building. Here's your dinner hour. Boom, shazam. And now we're at 7 p.m. and we've got plenty of upsidents in the atmosphere. Once again, a lot of these purples focused on the south side, not the north side. Therefore, greatest risk for strong to severe storms, Southern Valley, I-94, maybe as far north as Highway 200 and points south. Now we're starting to locate where the problem is, right? We've got energy that's going to cause lift right down here, right into parts of southern Minnesota, right along the Minnesota River out there. Hate summer storms, says Brenda. I understand that, but being informed is the best thing that you can do, and I'm really honored that I have your trust and that you're enjoying and taking part in Hutch's weather here. Now, as we go through the late night hours, the same thing happens. It starts to diminish as these storms rumble through and the overnight storms move in, meaning those storms become less surface-based as we go through the overnight hours. There's still quite a bit of energy in the Wednesday time frame down in South Dakota and Nebraska. Juicy air indeed, Northern Paul. Let's get to it. Let's see. I have a thermal underwear, but not 2x4 proof underwear. I got you. I don't know if I'll ever go to work on 2x4 proof underwear, but now let's look at spin. So we'll have energy in the southern half of the Red River Valley, southern North Dakota, and most of South Dakota through the day. For the spin, what we're going to look at is first, something called helicity in the lower levels of the atmosphere. It's kind of a spin factor or turning in the atmosphere. And we can see as we go through the night tonight, there are some isolated areas of spin. Let me make sure I've got the right thing. Yeah, that's what it is. And then as we go into tomorrow, there's more spin in the area as well. So this doesn't mean there's going to be tornadoes. And you have to have the spin peaking at the same time that we get the thunderstorms forming. And that's why sometimes you can see us meteorologists get all excited about the energy and about the spin, but we might have a cap that shuts down that rising air, or we might not have these factors all congealing at the same time. Like when you want to make your lutefisk casserole, you got to have all the ingredients come into the pan at the same time to make it taste Just right, if you know what I mean. Oofta. Okay, now we're going to look at the tornado parameter. So it's showing, this model's showing that there's going to be spin in the atmosphere working its way through portions of the valley and lakes country. Now we'll take a look at this tornado parameter. This is called the significant tornado parameter, and it's not huge. I want to point that out. We're not looking at one of these big time outbreaks here, but we will have, as we go through our Tuesday night, this is 7 p.m. dinner time, it's starting to increase. This is a tornado parameter that is not zero. In fact, it's pretty significant for our neck of the woods. We're talking values of 3 and 4, which is pretty high. So there's going to be spin in the atmosphere. But remember, Wednesday at dinner time, we didn't have widespread storms. We just had spotty storms forming. And that's a critical factor. Now, as we go a little bit later, those storms kind of expand in this area and move east. There is spin in the atmosphere in Lakes Country and the Southern Valley. So where storms were showing some possibility of forming. Jason says, yeah, sure, you betcha. Oof, from Grant County, Minnesota. Oof is right. We got spin, we got lift. So here's the story. If you live in a place where there's spin and lift, or that energy, that cape I was telling you about, then any storms that form in your area will have some of the ingredients necessary if the spin and the lift both come together at the same time. This is the stuff now Hutch will watch for on radar as we go through our Tuesday and Tuesday evening. Will it rain in Traverse? The first question I want to address, and that's rainfall amounts. So let's go right to this particular model's look at precipitous wet precipitation of the liquid variety. And now let's see what it shows. Okay, so for the 24-hour period that ends in the morning, here's where tonight's storms will go, according to this model. Now, they'll move in our direction towards daybreak. So as we head into, why does that say Wednesday? Okay, so here's the storm, rainfall potential ending as we go into the midday hours tomorrow. So the storms that move through overnight tonight have a good chance of moving out of places like Webo and up towards Minot. Isolated places will get the 1 to 1.5 inches. Rick Fox, thanks for your stars. So we could have isolated spots picking up 1 to 1.5 inches of rain, maybe a little more under those real big gully washers. And then the batch that develops in the middle of the night here and works its way towards the Red River Valley could have isolated pockets of 1 inch or so. This model advertises a better chance down to the south for some heavy rain. Do you see these little nubs of values here in the, I don't know what color that is, peach? Millions of peaches. That's 3.89 inches of rain estimated by this model. What that means is more than one storm likely moved over that area on the model, and it added up 2 or 3 storms that passed through the same area. So isolated, very isolated places could pick up over 2 inches of rain in this model. Several places could pick up at least 1 inch, but you're still going to get your pockets of Buckus, nothing. Sue, thanks for joining. Miss you on the TV. You know what? I miss being on TV, but there's no way in my broadcasting career I ever had this kind of time to elaborate and, better yet, Sue, answer your questions. So I love being here, and every day is more funner because I learn new things, except grammar, apparently. 1 inch of rain is a lot, in my opinion. You're right. For this area, it doesn't rain 1 inch a lot of times. In fact, I just emptied 14 hundredths out of my rain gauge here from last night's event or this morning's event here in South Moorhead. Not a big deal there at all. Big question here, a lot of words. Let me see. Cody asking, does tomorrow morning storm undercut the cap and allow evening storms to ignite with no struggle? If you're talking about the evening storms tomorrow, yes. What's going to happen is those storms, as they go through the overnight hours, will become less attached to the surface-based convection. That's why our surface capes went and the energy from the surface went away. But they will have access to what's called a lower level jet, so they'll rise, their cloud bases will likely rise. And when that happens, we'll get some rain from them, maybe not the heaviest of rain, and that will alleviate some of the risk of the largest hail because we're not rising and having that updraft surface based. It's more based aloft. And it will keep the chance for some wind, but even that diminishes a little bit when you get elevated storms. Sean says, Hutch, you should have more subs than Ryan Hall. Sean, Ryan does a wonderful job, and I can tell you this, the busy the busyness of this particular summer has made Hutch tired. So, I'm really glad I'm here too. Thanks for your kind words. Great explanation of the weather. Kay, thank you very much. Hi from Fergus Falls and hi, Otter Tail County. It's good to have you on board. Pamela, yes, Creator watering the plants for us indeed. So there's a chance of rain. This is model 1. I'm just going to switch this model over. Now, you asked about this. This is just through tomorrow morning. Now, there's another round of storms coming, and we'll look at what happens and what hits by the time we get to, let's say, Wednesday in the midday hour. Okay. So that next round of storms, this model says, woo-wee. Okay, so we got those isolated storms in the dinner time hour, and then the main event coming through the overnight that looks windy and wet. Another batch. Remember how everything was taking place south? Less rain up north, more rain down south, and locally heavy rain. This says 2.2 inches, and we have some hot pockets here. It looks like Monoman and Norman County getting galoshes out might not be a bad idea there. Let's look at another model's rendition of the forecast. This model is the one I showed on my last video that I posted this evening. And it was a little bit different with the track. And look how widespread it has. Rain ending by midnight on Wednesday morning. So Wednesday, 1 a.m. We'll call it that. So the Tuesday night storms. This is a widespread area of 2 to 3 inches of rain. Well, why so much? Well, we have dew points like they do in the Gulf of Mexico. So when we get dew points in the surface air that are in the 70s, that means there's wet water in the air, and the more wet water we got in the air, the more of this we can get in the old rain gauge. Hutch SPC has issued a new severe thunderstorm watch. Oh, goody. Let's go ahead and take a look at that, and thank you for the heads up, Josh. I appreciate that. Also, a question from Barbara. Actually, truly like you better on here because you're allowed to take your time and explain things, and I'm glad that helps you. You know, there's a lot of us that get, do you use the 3K NAM? Cody, that's what this is right here. This is the 3-kilometer NAM model right now showing the rain. I do use it a lot, but I use it to look at it and I weigh it with everything else. I won't say that I have personally found it to be the most accurate. I will tell you that I think this summer, the model that has been more accurate more often, if you're a weather nerd like me that likes to look at models in our area, the FV3, the HRW FV3 has been spot on with the track of storms, not always the timing, not the exact cities, but as far as the track that the cluster of storms has taken this summer, including our biggest events that happened early in the month or late in the month of June and early in July, those were the winners there. So thank you. Good question. And let's go ahead and take a look at this watch. But first, we've gone through this wet period here. These are individual 24-hour rainfall amounts. So we got rain coming tonight and then another round coming tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. 2 rounds of locally heavy rain. What's it going to be total in your rain gauges? Let's see what these models say real quick, because that's called QPF, quantity of precipitation in your forecast. Here you go. This just keeps adding. So this is the round tonight or this evening. This is going on into the overnight hours into your Tuesday night. And then by Wednesday, as we go into the morning hours, things get a little soggy. So you can see that as we go into Wednesday or Thursday morning, from the southern Red River Valley straight across most of Minnesota, pretty widespread chance of heavy rain. We're still going to have some of you that get missed, and that's just the nature of thunderstorms and their size. And it looks like less of a chance of widespread rain across the Missouri River Valley here as we go through the next 36 to 48 hours. But look at the North Shore and the I-35 corridor. So that's it. That's what I'm seeing right now. Feel bad for the animals. You know, they're going to get wet. Where I feel bad, there was a hailstorm that produced some baseballs and softball size hail out in Galva when I worked out in Bismarck. And those animals I absolutely feel sorry for because they just don't have protection. There ain't no trees out there, and what trees there are just don't protect them from that. Let's go back to Hutch's radar here. And Hutch says, when I talk in third person, I mean business. So let's see what Hutch has to say. My phone is making noise because we do have a new severe thunderstorm watch. So what you're looking at right now is that effective energy in the atmosphere. Let's go back to the radar here and kind of get back to business here. And then we'll summarize what we've seen. By the way, Wednesday, smoke. Check out my videos on that on here. I'm not going to elaborate on that. Our gardens need a good drink. Bonnie, where are you watching from? Dave says, Southeast Otter Tail County. Feels like I'm watching the weather with my neighbors in here. Hey, good. I'm glad. We're all neighbors here because, you know, we're all in this area together, and this has been my home base location. Spending almost a decade in Bismarck as a broadcast chief meteorologist, about 18 years here in Fargo, teaching college meteorology for the better part of 7 years. I like talking weather. Okay, back to the fun stuff. Here is a look. Nope, that's the modeled radar. I think my eyes are going a little cross-eyed. I had to get my lawn mowed, or else I would have to order a trailer full of goats because it was getting bad here in Hutchville. North of Billings, we got severe weather. Here's our line of storms moving out of and into central South Dakota, out of western South Dakota. Look at Kansas. Oh, Dorothy, click those heels together. Salina, McPherson, and Wichita now in severe thunderstorm warnings. Look at the copious amounts of lightning with these storms. These blue icons are wind or damaging wind or wind measurements that are severe. So some significant wind moving through parts of central Kansas now. South Dakota, Nebraska, well, up in northern South Dakota, we got a lot of wind reports out here. Let's see what they are. The Faith area measuring 50 mile per hour winds. 50 is below severe criteria. This one here that was measured southeast of Mud Butte, you know that there, 9 miles southeast, that was a 59. That is a severe gust. Severe, 58 miles per hour, just for your information. So let's take a look at these watches we're talking about. The watch in Montana, and now, oopsies, we're going from Bismarck all the way into Fargo. So the Storm Prediction Center and our local National Weather Service forecast offices in Bismarck, Grand Forks, and Aberdeen have teamed up and said these are the counties we're most concerned about having a risk of severe weather. The watch is in effect until 5 a.m. Central Time. 2-inch hail possible. 70 mile per hour winds possible from these Boeing storms as we go through the overnight hours. So that's what we got going on. If we take a look at the storms right now, they are moving at 35 miles per hour. Now, we could have some expansion or new storms develop in this hot, humid air that's in place. But what let's do is take a measurement of exactly how far these puppies are away. And we'll use a little bit of math and a little bit of trigonometry to figure out how long these puppies will be. Now, if it's these storms that hit our area, they're moving in this general direction towards, let's say, Sisseton and Hankinson. They're about 228 miles from the Dakota Magic Casino out here. Thanks, Val. I appreciate that. Don't ever leave us, Val. Thank you. And thank you for sticking with me and putting up with me for all these years. All of you have. Okay, now let's look. That's a lot of miles. Moving at 30 miles per hour or so. Oh, that's a heck of a long time. That is still over 7 hours away from us. Now, they can speed up, and oftentimes once they start producing 50 to 70 mile per hour winds, they will speed up. So those are a long ways away from the FM area. There could be some expansion here, and the models did show a cluster of storms firing right here and moving into our neck of the woods. So now that we know where things are, and now that we know that we have us a watch in effect until we get to 5 a.m. in the morning, which times out pretty well with our forecast models that we were looking at, correct, Amundo? Yes, says Hutch. Hutch says, yes, I agree. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the model that Hutch likes the goodest for the hour-by-hour forecast. The HRW FV3 has done a pretty good job. Here we have it rolling storms that are now pushing in towards Faith and the Lake Oahe area. This model seems to be a little bit too far north with these storms the way things are looking right now. This carries them right up into Grand Forks and Fargo by the time we get to the morning hours, and significant more wind. You asked about the NAM 3K. That North American model is what NAM stands for, and that one shows Shazam spotty storms as we go through our Tuesday in the wee hours of the morning developing, but it doesn't have this big line. It just has this little isolated pup down here that is there, but it doesn't have any of this stuff up here that's working its way out into parts of the oil patch in western North Dakota. This one fires up storms, the North American model does here, and moves them right into Fargo and then Lakes Country in the morning hours. So, you know, what you're looking at with me is not Hutch being confused. I am showing models to show you there are differences, and then we'll take a look and see if there's one here that has a decent grasp on what this thing is doing. This is another short range model. This one isn't too far off as we go into the 10 o'clock hour right here. Yeah, it doesn't have this one storm here, but it does have this. That fizzles as it moves into Bismarck as we go towards midnight. And then this low pressure deepens with some upper level support, and boom, everything takes off as it gets into this juicy air. Do you see these isobars getting close together? Sometimes these lower level south winds can fuel and feed these storms all night, and that's how they can keep rumbling in the overnight hours. And look at the big backward C shape with this, indicating a potential for some gusty wind as you rise and shine between 5 and 7. So Hutch is going to get a nice rest tonight. I am. And hope you do too. But if storms approach your area, they should approach the central part of the state near Bismarck close to midnight to 1, maybe 2 a.m. And then as we go in towards this would be 5 a.m. time frame. James River Valley, Cheyenne River Valley, Mobridge, Eureka, the city in South Dakota. That's where the storms will be. If you happen to be on the I-90 corridor in southern South Dakota, a little quieter. These storms will move into Minnesota, by the way. Not confident they're going to race up into northwest Minnesota. A couple of the models kept things a little farther south. Remember when we looked at the energy, there was a little less energy up on that far north. And notice how this model is starting to finally cut those storms off right here into Roseau and Kitson County. So, you know, my guess is they're going to track with that energy just a little bit more down to the south. So that's what I'm looking at. And here's the storms for tomorrow night, late into Wednesday morning for multiple rounds of storms. So here's what's going to happen. Overnight tonight, we're going to have some windy thunderstorms move through. That'll be the main threat. The Weather Service is saying 2-inch diameter hail potential. Why? Look at South Dakota and look at those CAPE values we saw. The energy in the atmosphere was over 5,000 joules of CAPE per kilogram. And what that means is there's going to be a lot of force in the upward movement of the air. So that's what's going on tonight. Hail to 2 inches in diameter, gusty winds to 70 miles per hour. And share this with a friend. Tag a friend in this and say, hey, before you go to bed, you might want to watch this. It's a little more information that you might get in some other sources. So I'm glad that you all like it. Now, last look. Radar. Billings, Montana, just to the north of where Hutch went to high school up there in Roundup. I was in Billings for the early days of Hutch's life. Heading to Roundup, we have a severe storm. You can see the purple, I guess I'd call that blue. That's hail, 1.5 inches in diameter, and it's moving east at 31 miles per hour right towards Roundup area. That's a severe storm. That's a severe thunderstorm watch in northeast Montana, including you folks right here in and around the big lake out there. It's, Fort Peck Reservoir is huge, and it's in the path of these storms. We have a lot of non-severe storms working their way through parts of northern Highway 2 corridor of Montana with some wet rain coming your way, and I'm sure that'll be much needed and appreciated. So for now, I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Severe storms in South Dakota likely to expand in aerial coverage as we go into the overnight. These storms will be heading toward the Minot area, by the way, with wet rain. The risk of severe up north a little lower because the energy up there is not as great. I got a question. Is PA going to get any storms this week? That's a big and hairy question, and I'll do my goodest to answer it. Let's go ahead and go to a European model. This is the one I like to look at beyond a few days. And we'll go ahead and start with that, and that's where we'll close out this broadcast, because I love the fact that I've got some folks watching from Pennsylvania. Thank you very much. I took a trip out there with a very, very good personal friend of mine, huge Pittsburgh Steeler fan. Mark, how you doing? Hope you're doing good. All right, now as you go through the early week time frame. This is Tuesday night. Pennsylvania high and dry with high pressure, and it looks like a nice warm spell of weather. It even warms up more as these winds become southeasterly and southwesterly rather. You're going to be scooping some Gulf moisture into your area. That means your dew points will be arising. It'll be sticky and icky. That's air you can wear kind of stuff out there. And this is through Wednesday night. Thursday, we had a little cool front moving through, but it looks like it kind of loses energy. And we got a low pressure system forming in the southeastern United States. It's just unsettled. Nothing organized through the entire work week. That's all the way through Saturday and still even into the weekend. Here's an organized storm that makes its way into your region, but not until next Tuesday. So my good friend out there in Pennsylvania, Josh's weather, at best, unsettled weather with the heat and humidity. You could have a few thunderstorms, and yes, they could be strong. Now you know some variables to look at for energy called CAPE. Helicity is a little bit of spin, and see what you watch for, okay? All right. I hope you have a good night. Thanks for watching. I'm going to remind you, if you do have weather overnight and you have hailstones in the morning or damage, I would love for you to share with me the facts of what you have. If you're measuring hailstones, put them next to a ruler. The biggest stones that you can find are the best, and that gives us an idea of the maximum hail size that made its way down to the ground. You can upload your photos right here on hutchesweather.com. Alerts. If you notice how it says alerts for Fargo, I allow hutchesweather.com to track my device's location. So it says, oh, you're in Moorhead. You have an alert for your area. You can even change the location of your area. I'm popping off screen for a second. Right where my head is behind me, there's a gear. And that gear right here is a look at where you can change your setting. You could be vacationing in Florida, but you want to watch what's going on in Fargo. You update your location, you type in your city, Shazam, Shazam. This includes you folks out there in Pennsylvania. Give Hutch's Weather a shot. See if you like it. Let me know your feedback on there. And remember, my fine sponsors. But again, viewer photos that have been uploaded today have been fantastic. Thanks so very much. Oh, dear. Look at these two. This is in Lakes Country in beautiful Minnesota. And it looks like they're saying, hey, do you hear that? No. Do you hear it? No. Do you hear it? That's what they're saying. And we did have some pea to dime size hail here uploaded in Browns Valley, Minnesota. Thank you, Victoria, for your photo as mentioned. And anytime that you have weather, you can let me know here. And no matter where you are, I appreciate your uploads right here on Hutch's Weather. Thanks for supporting Hutch's Weather. Thanks for watching. And overnight, if storms approach your area, know we're under a severe thunderstorm watch until 5 a.m. Storms tonight could be severe. Make sure you're staying informed. I'll do my best to do that as these storms move a little bit closer through the overnight hours. I'm going to get some rest, and we'll be watching these storms for you through the overnight. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Follow me on Facebook. I'm at Hutch Johnson, Chief Meteorologist. Subscribe on YouTube at Hutch's Weather. For now, have an awesome night, and we'll talk again very